The Bengals selected one of the most explosive players in the entire NFL draft, but there's also a lot of risk attached to him. So in this video, I'll explain where the pressure now resides in Cincinnati. Hi again, Bengals fans. John Sheeran of A to Z Sports Cincinnati here, and Shemar Stewart is the newest Cincinnati Bengal. Throughout this process, I have been weary of the Bengals taking Stewart. I always thought that it was a definite possibility with him being 21 years old, a 5-star recruit from a big-time program. He matches the pedigree and the profile of each of the last now 4 first-round picks that Cincinnati has made, going all the way back to Dax Hill in 2022. They say the draft is an inexact science, but you can pretty easily predict who the Bengals are going to pick once they're on the clock looking at their options. And as soon as Walter Nolen went off the board to the Arizona Cardinals, a pick before the Bengals picked, Walter Nolen being the guy that we predicted would be the pick a month ago, it was going to be Stewart no matter what, unless they traded down. And just from that perspective, I am kind of glad that they didn't have to pick between Nolen and Stewart, because I really don't know where they would have gone. Once Nolen went off the board, though, Stewart became the obvious pick for them in their eyes. We knew this pick had a really good chance of being a pass rusher, someone that could give them a lot of explosive juice up front. And the one thing we know for a fact about Shemar Stewart is that he is explosive. You don't run a 40-yard dash under 4.6 seconds and jump nearly 11 feet in the broad jump without having a lot of power in your lower half. And that is the upside with Shemar Stewart. He is huge, and he is fast, and he explodes off the ball. And that is a combination for someone who can be very dangerous in the NFL. But my word, man, this is a gigantic bet on not only Al Golden, but his entire staff on the defensive side of the ball. Because not only is Stewart extremely young, he's not even remotely close to being finished as a football player. For all of the speed, explosion, and power that is clearly evident in his game that I'm sure wowed the Bengals on film, there is a lot of work to be done with his hands, with his football awareness, stringing together pass rushing moves. There is so much work that he needs to do in order to be usable on Sundays. And for a team that needs pass rushing help right now, I do question how impactful Shemar Stewart is going to be as a rookie in 2025. And the questions do not stop there. Stewart is yet another defensive lineman the Bengals have drafted with a premium pick that had a lot of production questions that make you wonder, how high is his ceiling actually in the NFL? Because believe it or not, the very best pass rushers in the NFL, they all produced a lot more than Shemar Stewart did in college. And I don't mean to be a box score scout here, but that's just the truth. And those outliers, they do exist. Danielle Hunter, Jason Pierre-Paul immediately come to mind as athletic freaks who didn't really do that much in college, who entered the NFL at a young age, and then when their careers progressed, they got really useful. And that is a path forward for Stewart, but the Bengals specifically have not been able to find the key to unlock these kinds of pass rushers. And it just makes you ask the question, why is this time going to be any different? Because 4.5 sacks and 11 tackles for loss and 3 years of playing time at a major program, it does raise a lot of flags. And it's not just because of the scheme that he was in or the fact that he was double teamed a lot. He himself left a lot of production on the field. And if he didn't, he probably would have been drafted a little bit earlier than when he was. So Stewart is going to have to be this outlier if he's going to be anything more than just a decent player in a rotation for the Bengals. And if that's who he is, that's fine. You know, that's a role that you can have for several years and last in the NFL. But for the Bengals to look back on this pick and say this was a resounding success, Shemar Stewart is going to have to be an exception to the rule. And that means that there's going to be a lot of pressure on Al Golden and his defensive staff to get that to happen. But I want to hear what you guys think. Is Shemar Stewart worth the risk with the 17th overall pick? And how do you think the rest of the draft is going to go for the Bengals? Let me know in the comments below.